Hi. Um, Thank you for joining us on Youth Sunday. My name is Fisher Kirchhoff, and I am a sophomore at China Mission East. I'm very involved in the youth ministry here. It's a privilege to have you this week to share some of our perspective on our current world with you. In our world today, youth are living with some big realities and are dealing with some traumatic and life-changing situations, such as the recent shooting in Parkland, Florida. But that's just one issue that affects us as youth today. We have to deal with anxiety and depression, friends who are struggling with their identities and orientations. We have to deal with politics, differing perspectives of our friends and parents, friends who are contemplating or have attempted taking their lives. We have to deal with issues of sexual assault, harassment, racism, phobias of all kinds, and terrible violence all around the world. Our world isn't safe. It isn't easy nor innocent, and is a lot to handle. And the decisions that get made in our world affect us and matter. As we're the largest generation in history, we hold the future, and we could use some positive guidance. Please welcome Diana and Kate to share a little insight to our world and the issues that we have opinions on.
Good morning. My name is Diana Garbison, and I am a senior at Lincoln College Prep. And to me, youth activism is something that needs to be talked about more. Activism is also something that's given me confidence and a sense of identity. I was originally introduced to activism at a very young age by my parents. Yet, as I grow up, I find that I'm finding my own call to activism. In the last couple of years, I have taken my own initiative to get involved in movements that are important to me. For example, I have traveled to DC to stand with women of all ages and ethnicities to let our voice be heard. I have also had the honor to get involved with a group called Stand Up KC, a group fighting for a higher minimum wage, a living wage, and the right to form a union. With Stand Up KC, I have traveled to Chicago twice to attend the McDonald's shareholders meetings. I have also traveled with them to St. Louis to the third presidential debate in 2016. These are memories that are shaping me who I am. While I am protesting with people I have never met before, I realize there's one thing that I know we have in common. We are here for the same reason, to protest injustice, and we are determined to fight for change. For instance, one of the visits to Chicago, we marched through torrential rain. When I say torrential, I mean the rain literally destroyed the signs we were carrying. Yet, when I looked around, the workers beside me showed no sign of giving up. We continued to chant and demand change for hours and showed people just how determined we were. About a year ago, I traveled with a group of a dozen women, including my mom, to DC for the Women's March. Within the group of a dozen, there were women of all ages, races, sexual orientations, and backgrounds. We drove all the way to DC, and let me say, we got to know each other very well. Once we had arrived in DC and we were prepping for the next day, the day of the march, we began to organically explain why we had decided to come and what the trip meant to us. There was something so moving about listening to the different reasons everyone decided to come. Some said they had been fighting for women's rights for years. Others said that they would not miss it for the world. And one, Lois, told me what it meant from her perspective as a Native American woman. She had this moving story about how women contribute to society and said that if you can't respect women, then you can't respect the earth because the earth is our mother. Lois showed me how she can use her faith and meld that with activism. When people are determined and dedicated to demanding change, like the low-wage workers, it moves something in me. I feel a spark inside of me that makes me realize that being an activist is who I am and who I want to become. While attending rallies and protests, I realize that there are times where I'm motivated by my faith, but there are also times where I need these experiences to grow in my faith. I feel God calling me to use my voice to protest these injustices, and that reminds me of Matthew 19:14. Allow the children to come, Jesus said. Don't forbid them, because the kingdom of heaven belongs to people like these children. This verse is a reminder that Jesus is listening, and that he is listening to my voice, the voice of the youth.
Good morning. My name is Kate Steinecker, and I am a junior at Shawnee Mission Northwest High School. Today, I will be talking about feminism, sexism, and sexual assault. I chose these topics because I think it is important that I share my strong sense of advocacy and help other teens my age to share their advocacy, not just for women, but for anyone who is oppressed or discriminated against. The media has also become a good resource for teens and youth and has started stressing how our voices matter and can impact the movements just as much as the adult advocates we look up to. Feminism, by definition, is the theory of political, economic, and social equality for the sexes. In the 2014 United Nations He for She campaign, their ambassador, Emma Watson, gave a speech during which she said that fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating. If there was one thing I know for certain, this has to stop. I have always been a feminist indirectly. When I was young, I was always very aware that I should be able to do anything my male friends could do, but it was harder to fully grasp the concept because it was not a term that was often talked about. It was especially hard to understand because of how our educational systems interacted with boys and girls differently. Boys were always the ones given the rocket ships and the dinosaurs to play with, and girls were always given a princess or a doll. There was an anticipation that boys would excel more, not just in the science and math subjects, but in school in general, and girls would fall behind. But that was not the case in my family. My parents always pushed my sister and I to pursue the subjects and interests that we were drawn to. They raised us to believe that we could do anything we put our minds to. Because of this, I was always drawn to math and science subjects, but I still found that because of how the schools I attended presented these subjects to us, I was always one step behind the boys in my class. Or that I couldn't ask a question in class because I was worried that I would be mocked for wanting to understand. One day in either 5th or 6th grade, I was at recess and we were playing Capture the Flag, and 2 other girls and I had come up with a plan that was sure to win. So we told the rest of our team, mostly guys, of our plan, and I remember one of the guys started laughing at us and said, "That's stupid and that will never work. Why don't you just stick to what we want you to do and stop being so bossy?" In the moment, I didn't know what to say or even that I could fight back, but what stood out to me was that everyone around me was agreeing, even the girls that helped me with the plan. I decided that I was a feminist because I think it's right that I am given the same opportunities and respect as my male counterparts. I think it is right that I can make decisions about my own body, and foremost, I think it is right that I can voice my opinions and my beliefs, that I can pursue whatever goals I may dream up without being condemned by the opinions of the adults who have a different plan for me, a plan that has been determined by my sex. This was solidified last year when I went to the Women's March with my sister, and this experience ultimately taught me that my age and my gender should not inhibit my voice. The feminist movement has been a strong advocate for victims of sexism and sexual assault as well. Sexism is mainly focused towards women and how we have been oppressed and continue to be oppressed because of how society has turned its back on its prevalence in everyday life. One of the most basic examples of sexism I can give you that truly relates to me are dress codes at school. At almost every school across the nation, dress codes are more focused towards hiding female bodies and rarely address how our male friends should be dressing. This example in particular offends me because fashion is an important expression of who I am, and it has been so ingrained in me that I should be dressing to make sure that I am decent, that I am not distracting any boys because they can see my shoulders, or because my pants are too tight, or because my skirt is too short. I should not be worrying about how the boys will be reacting to my outfit. I should be focused on how I'm going to do on my math test, or how I'm going to get my grade up in another class. I believe that dress code should not be focused on female bodies, but instead we should be spending more time teaching the boys that our bodies are not something that they have any say in. I think that we should be teaching the boys that what we wear is not open to their opinions or reactions. I think that we should be teaching the boys that respect comes before anything else, and that their self-control is more important than how we choose to dress or behave. Yes. This example is just one of many that shows how men and boys have been almost trained to have more opportunities and are more entitled to their beliefs than women. And this thought process is just as prevalent with people my age as adults. This male culture has been present throughout history and continues today, and this is why the gender wage gap is so broad. In the US alone, a woman's average salary is just 78% of their male counterparts. The gap has been speculated to originate from a variety of factors, including gender discrimination, race, age, and education. And this clearly is not a myth. This is very prevalent in almost every workplace. And this is why I have joined the fight to eradicate sexism, not just in the workplace, but in schools and your everyday environment. I want to be rewarded for the same work as men are. I do not want to work in a place where I don't feel safe and I don't feel that I don't feel that my work is not being valued simply because I am a woman. Sexism is also a big part of how some men see women as objects more than human beings or equals. And this is why sexual abuse has become another natural part of some male cultures. Sexual abuse is another term that is often confused or not fully understood. Sexual abuse is any sexual contact without consent. It can be verbal abuse to unwanted advances to rape. According to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, 1 in 5 women will experience one or more forms of sexual abuse in their lifetimes. And not only that, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they turn 18 years old. And this is when I want to stress that no means no. Often women find themselves feeling threatened by men because they don't feel that they can say no, or if they do, that men think that they need to convince the woman. This is not the case. We do not want to be convinced, and we definitely do not want these advances to continue in any form. And again, this is not defined by age. Teens are often affected by this, and this applies to boys and girls. Recently, the media has been strongly highlighting this issue with the Me Too and the Time's Up campaigns. Me Too was a movement mostly spread through the social media that was used to bring attention to sexual harassment, mainly in the workplace. The movement was sparked by the allegations against Harvey Weinstein and those that followed. The Time's Up campaign was in response to Me Too and just furthered the Weinstein effect, a global trend in which people are coming forward to accuse men of sexual misconduct and empowering women to speak out against harassment in the workplace. I feel that the power of these two campaigns and their prevalence on social media has begun to teach teens what the effect of their actions can look like, especially as women and girls are becoming more empowered and do not fear how speaking out can affect them. These movements have also begun to stress how important it is that victims of sexual assault, of sexual harassment speak out. For so long, women and girls have feared speaking out because of how people in power would respond. Oftentimes, women will be questioned on what they were wearing or if they were drinking or how they were behaving. The authorities, the people we should be able to trust, are questioning how we provoked the incident rather than how the one responsible behaved. I would like to stress that the victim cannot also be responsible for the incident. One person cannot play both of those roles. Amen. I would like to share another quote from Emma Watson's UN address. Men, boys, I would like to take this opportunity to extend your formal invitation. Gender equality is your issue too. From Romans 12:1 and 2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, his pleasing, and perfect will. God gave us our words, he gave us our opinions, and he gave us our bodies to be used to share God's word in service to others. Thanks be to God.
That was great. No, I'm serious. That was awesome. To close this, we want you to know that life isn't all that bad. Things do happen, things that not only happen to adults but to youth alike, such as sexism, feminism, sexual assault, and the importance of things like youth activism. We have a lot of fun, and we get to do a lot of things that we enjoy. We also appreciate all the support of this congregation for things that we do, like lock-ins, mission trips, retreats, and space to discuss. We want to be able to answer any questions about our lives and what things matter. Please ask us. We are absolutely willing and able to have a conversation about this. We're going to move into a time of reflection. While you listen to this song, think about the role you play in addressing and the important issues happening in our world today.